want to shout out to all the Lewis Hamilton evangelists that said that this was never going to happen. It was impossible. This couldn't. Lewis was never going to leave Mercedes. No, he'll be there for life. He's too good a friend with Toto and all this nonsense rubbish.
My only concern, and I think this will come out in the next few days, is why now? Surely, why would Lewis make this decision now?
The symbiosis of brand Hamilton and brand Scuderia Ferrari is chaos, gents. Absolutely chaos. I would argue, chaps, why not now?
When Charles has the car that he needs, he doesn't make big mistakes.
Houseway.
If you want to go full
Yes,
chaos, not Fernando Alonso, not Kimi Antonelli, but there is a name doing the rounds, and I think he could be convinced to come back.
If you say Valtteri Bottas right now,
Don't say Sebastian Vettel.
No, I'm going to say Vettel. I'm going to say Vettel. If they...
One word answers only. Has Lewis made the right decision to find himself at Scuderia Ferrari in 2020? In 2025? Just I'll come to you first, bro. One word answer if you could do. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shakedown. With me as always, my brethren, my brothers, my friends and co-host, Baxty B. Excuse me, Sir Baxty B and Shezino. How are we doing, chaps?
I think you know how we're doing, mate. There's no point trying to do any gimmicks.
You know what, chaps? There's nothing really much to talk about, is there, this week? There's a bit of Charles, a bit
scratching around.
A bit of Lando.
Andretti, maybe?
Andretti getting rejected.
I'm super excited about the Andretti. That's what we're talking about, right?
That is what we're talking about. Of course it's not, Shez. Of course it's not. Overnight, the news starts to perspire, starts to transpire that there is something to Lewis Hamilton potentially moving across the Scuderia Ferrari. And initially, it's just a rumour reported by some very well-respected journalists, by the way. But it's still just a rumour. And we've heard these rumours before, right? May last year. And Lewis has always talked about potentially going to Ferrari, ending his career at Ferrari one day, that was his dream as a young boy. Which driver doesn't want to be in the red car? Then later on in the day, and by the way, as soon as you hear those rumours, we all were like, well, misdirection, classic F1 misdirection. Will Buxton's done another tweet, and again, we remember a couple of months back that that was all smoke and no fire, right? So it got a bit techie. You can't blame someone for reading these rumours and being like, pull the other one. Lewis isn't going anywhere. He's a Mercedes guy. But then we start to get Sky Sports around middays today. We get Sky Sports reporting. We get the BBC reporting it. And it turns out that Lewis Hamilton, as of 2025, will be a Scuderia Ferrari driver alongside Charles Leclerc. Baxty, Sir Baxty, to that, sir, you react how?
Chaos. Pure and utter chaos. Just before we went live, the official announcements just came out. So, you had Mercedes release a press statement, nice, long, glowing, tribute from Toto and Lewis saying thank you. And then we got the most Ferrari thing possible. Scuderia Ferrari is delighted to announce that we assigned Lewis Hamilton on a contract for 2025.
Unbelievable.
These rumours did the round last year, and I think some of us got caught. Me, definitely, I got caught up in it and thinking that it might happen. But then you kind of think about the practicalities of it, and you think, is Lewis really going to leave Mercedes? No, he's not. So when the rumour broke last night, I just thought, no, this is another hype job. It could be to distract from the fact that Andretti got rejected. And then somebody pointed out, is it basically a negotiation tactic for Ferrari to try and convince Carlos Sainz to actually sign a contract that they want and not the one that he wanted? I then got back from the gym this morning. I had just reversed onto my drive, stopped the car, checked my phone to see a message from my good man Rory, and it was the Sky Sports saying Lewis Hamilton is off to Ferrari. I was just like, what?
Mate.
Like it's the impossible switch that we never thought would happen. it is the biggest driver transfer in the history of the sport. I mean, the only two that I can think that are comparable is when Michael left Benetton to go to Ferrari, and when Seb left Red Bull to go to Ferrari. But this is different because this is Lewis leaving Mercedes, like the greatest driver team partnership I think we've ever seen, with 6 world titles and so many 82 race wins. I just I can't comprehend, even though I've now seen the tweets to say that it is real. I still can't quite believe it. My only concern, and I think this will come out in the next few days, is why now? Surely, why would Lewis make this decision now? Why would he not wait and see what the W15 is like? Maybe he's seen some things in the factory that he's not happy with. Maybe he's decided, you know what? I don't think I can win an 8th championship at Mercedes. And Ferrari showed a lot of progress at the end of last season, particularly with that Suzuka update. And I'm sure we'll get into this a bit later, but in more detail. But Lando Norris just signed his new contract with McLaren and was like, "Oh, I don't really want to go to Red Bull. I want to build something with McLaren," which is a very legitimate point. And then Lewis Hamilton has just gone, "Charles Leclerc, Ferrari, yeah, bring it on."
Let's go. Testament to the man and the driver. He's just a racing driver at heart, isn't he? He just wants to race a quick car, and I can't blame him, Baxty, for losing faith and or patience in the Mercedes project. It's been a couple of years now, and how many years does Lewis Hamilton have left in F1 racing? Not that many. Important
to point, Ferrari have said multi-year contract. Now that could just be 2 years, but that suggests to me that it might be 3 or 4 even. This is not a quick, I'm going to drive for Ferrari for a year or so. This is Lewis going, I'm going to drive for a few years and I'm going to end my career at Ferrari. This he's going to be there for 2, 3, 4 years, I suspect.
This is bonkers. Let me bring you in, Shez. What did you think to the news, bruv? Were you rubbing your eyes in disbelief, or did you see it coming?
A bit of both. Well, no, I definitely did not see it coming. I was the same as I think everybody else. I saw the rumor initially, pretty much dismissed it for an hour or two, and then it just wouldn't go away. And then you guys saw it on Sky Sports. I saw it on Autosport, and I thought, wait a second, this is real. This is actually properly going to happen. And now we've had the big announcements. I mean, I don't think I can really understate this as anything other than it's a nuclear weapon that's just gone off in the middle of Formula One, and there's wreckage from this everywhere. Like, there are people that are people, teams, drivers, personnel that are in the debris of this. There's a lot of fallout. What does it mean for Lewis? I have to say, I've been up and down about this all day. I've had a night now to sleep on it as well, while things have been going on in the background. And I have to say, my initial thought was, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. This makes me very, very anxious.
Why, Shez? Why does this move make you anxious? I'm keen.
Look, I spent an entire hour talking to my cousin about how I think that the best way to win races and championships in Formula One right now is to have a team built around you. Lewis has had that for nearly 10 years at Mercedes, and although the last couple of seasons, both from a technical and a teammate point of view, haven't really fit the bill quite as much, you still felt like Mercedes was Lewis's team, and he's going somewhere else, and it's not a definite forward step. We've seen big driver moves in the past, and there was always a caveat to all of them, right? When Michael left from Benetton to go to Ferrari, he was still, late 20s, and brought his entire team with him. When Lewis left McLaren for Mercedes, he was 29, and again, that was a team that he was clearly being sold on the prospect of a brand spanking new power unit in a new regulations era. And although I take the point that this is similar in terms of he's leaving in 2025 to be there just as they switch over to a new set of regulations in 26, for me, Ferrari are always a little bit more hit and miss. And for me, I still need a little bit of convincing, and maybe you guys are going to do that for me today. But my concern is that there's a balance here between whether this is a performance move or a romantic move, and I need to know that this is a performance move, and that his intention is that he's going to win an 8th title there, because that for me is all that matters.
Go on then, Shez. Let me push back on you on this. I want to. There's a couple of things that I want to address in this monologue. Firstly, to Baxty, I would word it ever so slightly different. Not why now. I understand that timing is key with everything, and I suppose his move to Mercedes from McLaren back in the day is testament to that fact. Why not now? Baxty and Shez, why not now? He's 39 years old. He's coming to the twilight of his career. It'd always been a hope and aspiration to drive a red car, of course, to win a championship in one. But again, I feel like that at this point is not quite roundings, but nice to have. If you had an option, chaps, of driving and not winning a championship, would you choose the Mercedes or the Ferrari? I'd choose the Ferrari each and every single bloody time. I think the downside associated with this move is far higher, far more limited than the downside of just bloody staying at Mercedes. And not to mention, chaps, if you're talking about the combination, the whole being greater than the sum of its parts, the brand that is Lewis Hamilton with Tommy and whatever else, like what all of his other sponsors that comes with, fashion, all of that other stuff, the symbiosis of brand Hamilton and brand Scuderia Ferrari is chaos, gents. Absolutely chaos. I would argue, chaps, why not now? May as well just roll the dice. Like, if Mercedes might build a championship winning car, they might have built one already. If I'm gun to the head, am I putting my life and my mortgage and my wife and my kids on that? Not a chance, lads. And again, go back to my original point. If you have an option to drive an F1 car, knowing that in all probability you're not going to win yourself a championship, I'm taking the red car each and every single day, Baxty. Each and every single day, bro.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the romantic dream, and I think members of Team LH and Cult LH, whichever way you want to call them, have long denied that Lewis ever felt that pull. But I think it's always been there. Senna was supposed to drive there and didn't before he died. Many of his favourite drivers have all driven there. I mean, when I first started becoming aware of Formula 1, when I first started watching it, when I first became aware of it, it was Michael Schumacher in a red car. You get drawn to the colour red. It's you can't imagine Formula One without Ferrari. I mean, what did Sebastian Vettel say? He said, deep down we're all Ferrari fans at heart, and it's true. We are. Even the most seasoned Ferrari hater will probably be deep down a Ferrari fan, despite all of the shenanigans they get up to with dodgy strategy calls and dodgy pit stops. I mean, could you imagine Lewis is driving along and goes, okay, it's hammer time. And then rather than going, okay, yeah, hammer time, Lewis is going, we are checking. But yeah, this is crazy. And another way you can phrase the why now question is, why are they making the announcement now?
I know the answer to that, Baxty. I've worked it out, bruv. 5.6 billion worth of market capitalization is why.
True. Well, I think it's partly because of Lewis. Not all of that is Lewis, but correct.
Well, all right. So here's what happened. So Ferrari had their quarterly announcements today, and the share price of any listed stock normally goes up or down on that day, depending on whether they'll set a forecast. So they expected, I think it was 1.6 billion was the number that Ferrari were expected to hit EPS. That's earning per share. Is that a lie? I feel like I'm lying here. Anyway, they had a forecast, and if you beat the forecast, then the share price will go up. If you miss the forecast, then the share price will go down. I think they beat on earnings per share. I think that was 2 cents on the dollar. And then I think they missed revenue. And then the share price went a bit bonkers because Ferrari's forecast going forward for the next quarters was quite promising. A portion of the 5.6 billion increase in market capitalization that Ferrari saw, absolutely without a shadow of doubt, is because of the news that we saw come out today. I think they've synced it up perfectly. Ferrari clocked. That's why they tried to push it through, right? Because they wanted to reveal that Lewis Hamilton was going to be the next driver at the same time as they were announcing positive results. That's definitely
interesting reason. But I mean, this deal's been in the works for a while. Clearly, there was a Sky Sports F1 show happening just before we came on, and they spoke to their colleagues in Italy, and apparently Charles Leclerc knew about this before he signed his contract extension.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Carlos Sainz has known for about 2 weeks that he would not have a drive for 2025 with Ferrari. So this has clearly been going on, and I think this links back to what we were saying a couple of weeks ago. And shout out to Becca, who reminded me of this on Twitter. But basically, we were saying, Toto said, "I want to win an 8th championship with Lewis," and it was kind of he was saying that to appease Lewis and the Lewis fans. And he wasn't trying to appease us. He was definitely trying to say to Lewis, "I'm committing to you, commit to me." Didn't work, but I think Toto was definitely courting him, like courting his own driver in public, which sounds ridiculous, but clearly there was more to that comment than we realised.
Unbelievable. Shez, let me ask you this. Can with your racing helmet on, I know you're a big Charles guy. Can Lewis Hamilton at the ripe old age of 39, 40 years old, can he beat Charles Leclerc in 2025?
Yeah. I don't really have a doubt about that. Can he? Yes. Will he? Don't know. And I don't think. And the thing is, I don't even think that is the point. My worry about this, right, is I think Sean and Lewis are cut from the same racing driver cloth, right? Neither of them really care who's in the car opposite them. They have so much faith in their own ability and what their aim is that the person in the other car is just another person. Right, it doesn't really matter. They're just a thing. They'll have absolute faith in their own ability. But we have, well, I haven't, because I quite like having 2 number 1 drivers in the team. So actually, for me, that works quite nicely. But you have definitely banged the drum of don't have 2 number 1 drivers in a team. If you really want Lewis to win a title, he needs to be number 1. He's not going to get that at Ferrari. Charles won't let that happen. And Ferrari feel like they're hedging their bets a little bit here. That they've committed to Charles in terms of their technical direction. But they're kind of like, if Charles can't do it, well, we've got Lewis. And in the heat of a championship battle where Ferrari might have a car that's competitive, but not quite on par with a Red Bull, is that going to cost them? Possibly, but it'll be fireworks. It'll be absolute fireworks. And you know what? You can lay to rest anyone that says that Lewis is not in his prime anymore. Right? That's the big question this answers for me. And I have really good faith that Lewis is going to be on it. And yes, I think he can definitely beat Charles Leclerc in that car. But for me, that's not the point. For me, the point is that is that I want him to win an 8th title. And that's my question to you guys. Is, do you think that that's what he can do there?
Bruv, the verbs that you use here are quite important between can, will. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really, really important not to do the saloon semantics thing. Of course, he can win a championship. I'd even contend, where I'm at currently with Charles Leclerc, as fast as he is, I feel like he's a bit fast and furious, and I do mean that in a pejorative sense, chaps. I think Lewis Hamilton will have too much smarts for Charles Leclerc. He won't beat him on pace. But again, chaps, this is the old adage, right? If you're going to win a 24 race championships, then pace is like ground zero. You need so much more, so many more feathers in your cap than just that. And I think Charles Leclerc, although 24 months ago when he did his DRS checking, I was bamboozled and thought Charles Leclerc had proper race IQ. I haven't seen anything that attests as much since. Just seen unforced errors and a lack of assertiveness. How do you find yourself in Brazil out there on the wrong tyres in qualification? Like, how does that even make sense? And Carlos Sainz on the other side of the garage is on the right tyres at the right time. How is that even a... You have to be a bit daft and a bit noddy to have that habit. As quick as he is, Shez, I know in your eyes I am blaspheming right now, but as quick as he is, I almost think Lewis... He hasn't picked in it. As far as if we're talking in terms of teammates, George Russell versus Charles Leclerc. I'll pick Charles Leclerc every single day of the week. I think that's the easier option, chaps. I'll be honest.
You're a big George Russell guy. That's a big statement from you.
Bro,
big statement.
I definitely don't know about that.
But don't think about pace. It's not just pace. Who's going to give you the
I'm
ride?
I'm not just thinking about pace.
What does Charles go on? And let me put. I don't want to make this about Charles, but we've digressed very quickly onto. What is it about Charles, Shez, as the resident Charles Leclerc supporter on the cast? What one thing, what's the facet to Charles Leclerc's game that will be keeping Lewis awake at night in advance of 2025? Apart from his speed.
That it's the fact that he's ensconced in Ferrari with that pace. It's not just that one. It's not just that one thing. He's committed multi-year to Ferrari, and it shows some. It does show some gumption on his side as well to say, I knew Lewis Hamilton was coming, and I still signed that deal. You know, he clearly had confidence in himself to do the business. Like whether that's misplaced or not, I don't know. But for me, the parallel here is Prost going to Ferrari in 90 and going up against Mansell, right? Mansell's the same. Mansell was fire. He was just fast, really fast. But that's perhaps all he had. Just bully the car into doing what he wants. And you know, if I'm quicker, I'll win a championship. And he didn't have the political nous. Yes, I think that's what Lewis will have more than Charles does. Charles doesn't play a political game, and the move that Lewis has made right now seems like I've lost faith in Mercedes. They're not listening to what I want and giving me what I need. So I'm going to go somewhere else where they will want me, and whether he then plays the same game and makes Ferrari form themselves around him over the course of the next season or two, that's what I don't know. That I think is Lewis's strength, and where Charles might lose out. But in terms of pure pace and ability, and even on a race day, when Charles has the car that he needs, he doesn't make big mistakes.
Houseway. What are we talking? Shez. What are we talking?
I don't think he does.
France,
Imola 2022
Monaco,
says
year.
Otherwise. No, Monaco, he's just cursed. No, but Imola 2022, that was on him. He pushed way too hard.
France,
Like, okay.
Monaco, Brazil, wrong tyre quali. There's a gazette.
But none of those are.
Las Vegas, turn 12.
Okay.
No, you can't blame him for Las Vegas turn 12. But
Houseway? How can you not blame him for the Las Vegas turn 12?
Anyway. Well, he still did well in the race, didn't he? It wasn't like his car got blown up and his teammate,
okay, fair. So it wasn't an ultimate mistake of consequence, but what Shez said that he doesn't make big mistakes, and he bloody dirty.
That wasn't. Yes, but he
stacked
didn't
it in
dump
France.
it in the
I can't remember.
2019 Baku.
Oh,
when he
mate,
crashed
just
in the wall. I am stupid. He was going to get pole and dominate that weekend.
Mate, that dude.
Yikes, we're going all the way back to
I know that's a long time ago, but you want a mistake. There's one right there.
Shez, that France 22. Like, come on, Shez. Let's not be factually incorrect.
The evidence here is that when the car has come back to him since Japan, and I maintain he was the standout driver of the last 3-4 races of the season last season.
Yeah, he was.
And if Ferrari have now committed to that direction, then the chances are, however competitive the Ferrari is, it will be tailored to what Charles wants and need, which for me puts him in a position where he doesn't have to do the overreach quite as much and can drive more comfortably, which is what he was doing towards the end of the season last season, and puts him in a stronger position to not make those mistakes. And we saw at the beginning of 2022, Imola aside, that actually when the pressure's on and he doesn't have to worry about the team behind him, actually he doesn't make big mistakes. And
to that point, okay, so let's deal in facts for a second, Shez. To that point, I agree with you. I know I disagreed with you a couple pods back, but Charles Leclerc was actually in pretty SH1T hot qualifying in Japan, Qatar, USA, Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Abu Dhabi, fourth, fifth, first, second, finishing respectively, fourth, fifth, didn't finish or disqualified, third, did not start second and second. He looked incredible, but brother, I've said it to you already, Shez. Charles is a 2 race at a time, Donny.
He's got to prove us wrong. I mean, the thing
he's got to there you go, yeah. Baxty, you said it. I'm glad that you said it. He's got to prove us wrong. And as at January 2024, Lewis Hamilton will be going to bed sleeping easy. And if he's anticipated, if Charles doesn't grow and improve and trend the unforced errors down to zero, Lewis will be looking at that. Lewis will be like having a cup of Starbucks, like sleeping.
The thing for me with
I don't know about that.
I think the one thing that Lewis will be concerned about with Charles is purely qualifying pace, because that guy over one lap, I think, is undisputedly the fastest. I think even if you held a gun to both Lewis and Max's head, they would probably admit that he is the quickest. He was pulling off some miraculous qualifying laps in those crap Ferraris of 20 and 21. So just that just goes to show how good he is over one lap. And I think this is going to be a great driver pairing. It could blow up. We know that Lewis doesn't mind a combustible teammate relationship. He's been there and done it many times. But yeah, I think it's going to be probably one of the best of the young drivers going up against the GOAT. And Lewis showing he's not afraid to take on the younger generation, be like, hey, I can beat you, it's fine. I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
Mate.
But I do want to say one thing. I've marketed myself as a Mercedes fan since I came onto this podcast. I'm going to remain a Mercedes fan.
Let's go.
Just because Lewis is leaving, I was a Lewis fan first, Mercedes fan afterwards, and I'm still going to keep on with them. I'm committed to the team. I'm very interested to see who they bring in to replace Lewis. There's one guy I really don't want. The rest of the options, I think I'll take. But yeah.
We'll have to talk about that, Baxty. You bring up something that's really interesting. And you know what, before I get onto my own personal take on the Mercedes fandom, I want to shout out to all the Lewis Hamilton evangelists that said that this was never going to happen. It was impossible. This couldn't. Lewis was never going to leave Mercedes. No, he'll be there for life. Mercedes is Lewis just as much as Lewis is Mercedes. He's too good a friend with Toto and all this nonsense rubbish. Anybody knows it? Listen, if you were around in 2012 when he made the decision to leave McLaren and join Mercedes, I'd argue, Baxty, that decision was even more bonkers than this one. I was watching Top Gear last night in my slumber, a Lewis Hamilton appearance, and Clarkson was mocking him. Clarkson's analogy was like
I
that.
remember
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Clarkson's
I remember it.
analogy was like leaving McLaren for Mercedes at the time. It's like leaving Man United for Wycombe Wanderers or whatever. Like it was a backward step.
It was, yeah. Whereas this, something has clearly happened at Brackley for Lewis to turn around now before the car's even been unveiled, before testing has even started, for him to go, I want out. Something has happened at Brackley. We don't know what it is. We probably will never know what it is, or Lewis won't tell us until he's left, because he's the kind of guy that he won't dump on his team from a great height whilst he's still there. That's the one thing I can't shake from my head. Is like, why is he doing it on the 1st of February? Why is he not doing it after Silverstone, after Monza, when he's actually got data on the car and he can track? Because yes, Ferrari are looking good, and I suspect we'll probably finish P2 in the constructors this year, and are trending to being ahead of Mercedes. So technically, it's a step forward. But why now? Why now?
Hang around too long, and the seat would have gone right. Because Carlos Sainz, I think, would have signed. I just think it was
Albon,
a Bang or Albon, and he got all these other guys waiting in the. Like, I just think it was like the perfect storm of timing. I don't think the window would have lasted until a Silverstone, because Sainz would have signed, or they would have grabbed somebody else. Shez, Baxty raises a really a good point around the Mercedes fandom, because I know 99% of the populace it was only a marriage of convenience with Mercedes, just because that was the team that Lewis Hamilton drove for. How are you you still repping Mercedes going forward, Shez, or have you turned coat per se?
I'm ultimately a driver fan at the end of this, right? Ultimately, I still think Lewis Hamilton is the greatest driver to ever plonked his bum in a Formula One car, and that's where my allegiance goes, right? I really want Lewis to win an 8th title. I think it's a stain on Formula One that he doesn't have one already. And if that means that that's a Ferrari, then I'm fully behind him. I wish Mercedes all the best, and I think, from a technical point of view, they're. I have to say, I've been sort of fairly convinced by what James Allison has been saying since he's come back, and the rhetoric that he's been putting out. But I'm not going to have the same interest in Mercedes as I have done if Lewis isn't there. I know that sounds really glory huntery, but like, for me, at the heart of it, Formula One is about the drivers. That's what's got me into Formula One. That's why I've been watching it for 20 odd years. So
That's the blasphemy. You're a Benedict Arnold, bruv. Like, how dare you turn coat on Mercedes? And I say that very firmly with tongue in cheek, because I think I'm right there with you, bruv. I've got no allegiance to Mercedes. Nah, genuinely, probably even further along that sliding scale. I don't know. Who were they going to even get? Like, who could they get?
There's a whole list.
So here's my question to myself in this same vein, Baxty. Who could they get that's going to make me bloody feel proud?
There's 14 contracts. 14 contracts up at the end of this year, so you've got 14 options immediately available to you.
But I don't know. I think the best of them. Go on, then let's go through them. I think Ocon, Albon. I think Lando would have been right there had he not signed his contract. But I think probably principal among contenders are probably Albon, Ocon,
Gasly.
Bottas, Gasly. Gasly will be having words. Yeah. Fernando and Alonso apparently has had word with Toto Wolff. I don't know.
No, that was fake news.
You think that's fake?
Yeah, Ted Kravitz just said he didn't say it.
Disbanded, fair play.
Yeah.
Although it wouldn't surprise me if that was going on. Alonso has proven himself very capable of a cheeky jump ship.
I don't want Alonso.
You know what, though?
Why?
He's quick. He's quick. Don't get me wrong. It's everything that comes with Fernando. Like, Mercedes do not need that. And also, it goes against what Toto's want. it would be the most un-Toto hire of all time.
I mean,
Mate,
sometimes
but
you got to roll the dice, right? When you've just lost
and
your.
this is the driver thing again, right? If Lewis isn't there, I don't care. Like, put Fernando in the Mercedes and let the fireworks happen. I think it'd be brilliant.
Fernando and George. Oh my God.
It'd be hilarious.
You can't even write it.
So here are some names that I'm gonna. So you've said a lot of them already. So Ocon is probably top of the list because he's still technically on loan, I think, to Alpine.
It's the relationship with
Toto, and he's got a
Mm.
long relationship with Toto. Albon has to be in there with a shout, given his form the last couple of years. Plus, he's used to driving Mercedes engines at Williams. Alonso, as much as I don't want him, undoubtedly his name will come up at some point because it's Fernando Alonso. As Jenson Button put it, he just doesn't go away. He finds a way to keep himself going. I'm a big fan of Gasly. I'd love to see him get that seat. I think Daniel Ricciardo would be lovely, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No. Gasly over Ocon, Baxty.
Me personally, yes, I would take Gasly over Ocon, but I think Toto would probably go Ocon because of their relationship. Bottas isn't a bad shout because if you go back and watch Bottas's exit interview in 2021, Toto said to him, "We'll have you back at some point." And I wonder if Toto might want to make good on that promise.
I mean, the downgrade of downgrades.
It's a massive downgrade. I mean, I love Valtteri, but that's a massive downgrade.
Shareholders will love that move, won't they?
Yeah. I know there's talk of Kimi Antonelli, but he'll be 18 next year. That's way too soon to put him in a factory drive.
Go on then, Baxi. Let's talk about Kimi, because as we talk, I thought that Kimi was probably a bit premature, but sometimes you need to roll a couple sixes, right? As we're talking about all of these kind of like Ocon and like Bottas just tipped me over the edge, chaps. I'm just thinking like, do we want to be any more conservative?
Mick Schumacher.
Could we park the bus anymore per se? Like with like Valtteri Bottas, like what? Nah, Kimi Antonelli. I'm thinking. I hope he's obviously this is dependent on a lot of things. His rate of development and growth. Can he nail F2? Being one of the only ones to nail F2 in his maiden season. But bro, if he puts in a couple decent races, man, sometimes you got to sign a.
He's got a tough season ahead of him because he's going into Prema, which is arguably the best team in F2, and he's got Ollie Behrman as a teammate, who is a Ferrari young driver, Ferrari reserve driver, announced today that he's going to be doing 6 FP1s for Haas and will probably end up driving for Haas next year, I suspect. That's a big challenge for him, and if he can overcome that, then yeah, you can make the argument he can go straight into a works Mercedes. But to be honest with you, I can see them doing. Let's say this is a scenario that could happen. Mercedes sign Albon, and they say, right, but you can have Kimi Antonelli on a 3-year deal, like they did with George. Give him that time to develop, and then when Albon's contract is up in 3 years' time, bring in Kimi.
Smart. I don't hate that. Talk to me, Shez.
Listen, I'm with you. There was always going to be a choice between, are you going to go with youth and potential versus safe and reliable in that second seat, because Mercedes is quite easy to say, well, we've got George Russell, and we've got our focal point. We can just build our team around him, and then just have somebody else in the car to bring home the points. And Valtteri fits that bill quite nicely. But actually, Merc have never really, other than the Valtteri era, have never really shied away from having two really, really good drivers in their car. So yeah, I'd be super psyched to see Kimi Antonelli in that car in 2025. Especially if he does well in F2 this year. And F2 is completely different to F1 in terms of how I view drivers going up against each other. There, you really do have to prove that you're the best. Like in F1, I think that's slightly overrated in terms of that it's not about proving that you're better than someone else. It's how you get yourself in a position to win a championship. Whereas in F2 is just about how good you are. And if Kimi Antonelli can overcome Ollie Behrman, or even show that he's properly challenging, then I think that's got to be the driver pairing. That has to be it. Russell and Antonelli.
Let's go.
I mean, that's
Not yet. It will happen, but not
well,
yet.
in 2025, I think look, if he comes first or second, like he needs a seat in F1.
Sure,
Williams.
Williams.
I don't think Albon's going to want to do that. Well, I don't think Bowser's going to want to do that.
Sometimes you got to go hard and go hard. Like you just kind of imagine.
But let's say Albon doesn't leave. If Logan Sargent isn't delivering and Williams don't have faith in their juniors, then they could easily call up Kimi, like to go alongside Albon. That would be a great driver lineup at Williams. Yeah, Albon and Antonelli, a rookie Antonelli learning under Albon. That wouldn't be bad, and then Mercedes could bring him up.
I just want to skip it, and it's 1-2, miss a few 99, 100. I just want to skip a few steps and see Kimi Antonelli become the next Max Verstappen, racing an F1 car at the ripe old age of 2 years old. Like I just want to. For me,
it's just a big ask for an 18-year-old to go into a works team. Like I don't mind him going into a Williams or a like a Stake, or probably not Stake. They want him to go there because of Audi, but a lower down team. I'm not so fussed about it, but a works Mercedes that could.
Actually, if this was Mercedes at their pomp, I'd say fair enough. But then you wouldn't have Lewis Hamilton leaving the team at that point. But but
plus you're also replacing Lewis.
That's why.
Think of the pressure that's going to bring to fill his shoes.
It's a big. Indulge me for a second though, Baxy. Like Father Christmas is a thing, and unicorns exist, and Kimi Antonelli, of course, can be a championship in his maiden season in F1 at the ripe old age of 19.
Maybe not, but if you want to go full chaos, not Fernando Alonso, not Kimi Antonelli, but there is a name doing the rounds, and I think he could be convinced to come back.
If you say Valtteri Bottas right now,
don't say Sebastian Vettel.
No, I'm going to say Vettel. He posted a picture with George literally the other day at a ski lodge. Were they having talks? And they wanted him years ago. When they first came back, they were like, yeah, we want German drivers and we would love to have Vettel at some point.
You know what it is, Baxty? Like I'm
not the biggest Seb guy, but I'd love to see him come back as a Mercedes driver. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, it's like for like shits and gigs. Like it's not like I feel like Sebastian went at the right time. I always reference UFC and boxing, right? But boxers have a tendency to like fight at least 5 or 6 times too many, right? They never retire at the right time. And I feel like Seb was probably a couple seasons late in retiring. Like he could have gone a couple seasons early, and see him come back now. I'm not sure what. There are too many young guns out there who deserve a drive. I feel like Seb's had his time, and do you know what I mean? And he kind of went at the right time. I don't know.
But what I would say to that is Mercedes are not interested in. They want somebody that is ready. I don't think Kimi Antonelli is going to be ready to be at the front of the grid competing for constructors' championships. Maybe not drivers' championships, but they're going to need somebody to go in and be a perfect teammate for George, that can be competitive enough to George that they're pushing him, but also that he can be still the leader of the team, like Bottas was to Lewis. Because let's not forget, when Mercedes signed Bottas, they signed him as somebody they believed could be a world champion. Didn't shake out that way because Lewis went into God mode. But it's, and also had Ferrari to challenge him for 2 years to force him to do that. But they're going to want somebody that's going to be good enough of a challenge to George that if George is off his game, they can beat him easily, like George did with Lewis over these last 2 years. It's tough. I would probably lean towards Ocon at this stage, but I would love to see Albon get it. There's a whole host of drivers I'd love to see get it. I'd even love to see Nico Hülkenberg in there so he can at least get a podium in his career.
All these charity picks, Baxty.
There's law there, though. There is law there with Hülkenberg because Ross Brawn said this.
A smidgen.
Ross Brawn said this, that if Lewis said no in 2012, they would have gone for Hülkenberg.
Yeah, but
I know it's a bit romantic, but come on.
like that, but the age thing for me doesn't really make much difference, right? Or even the inexperience. McLaren were happy to bank on Oscar Piastri in the second car. Yes, that was pending a big result in F2, but that's kind of what we're expecting from either Behrman or Antonelli this season, right? One of those two is most people's pick for a title in F2 this year, right? Um, and if Antonelli comes out on top, like why not put him in the car?
Yeah, I'm down for Antonelli every single day of the week. But again, sometimes I
It's
hear
going to
Baxty's
happen at
point.
some point.
100%. But I hear Baxty's point in that sometimes it depends on the driver, right? Every once in a while, you get a Max Verstappen that you can throw in there, and he's gonna, you know what I mean. Whatever you throw at him, in the end, it's gonna stick. Who knows? Antonelli may or may not be that type of guy. Some guys come in there and Alex Albon, Gasly. They throw them in at the deep end and it nearly ruins them, right? Some drivers need to be brought along at a kind of steady rate of pace rather than thrown in there at the deep end.
Lewis's 2007 season was incredible and he's rightly lauded for being the greatest rookie season of all time, but that was unique to Lewis. And I think a lot of teams have tried to bank on these rookies coming in and having a Lewis style season. Like Max, when he first joined Red Bull, okay, the first race was brilliant. It took him about a year and a half to nearly 2 years to really iron out a lot of the flaws in his game. And he had to do that in a decent Red Bull, obviously not a championship winning Red Bull, but a decent Red Bull. But he still made a lot of mistakes. I mean, the start of 2017 was an absolute disaster for Max. He was crashing all over the place. And I just feel like give Antonelli the time away from the spotlight, like they did with George Russell. I think that worked really well for him. Yeah, okay, look, last year was a bit of an off year, but everyone has off years. Give him that time and he will come good and he will be the Mercedes driver the lineage is there right now you're going from Lewis to George to Kimi. I know Fred Vesti's very highly rated, but I'm sorry, there's a queue, you ain't in it. And that's the way I see it. But you got to give Kimi the time to develop. I think if you chuck him into a works Mercedes now and you expect him to be helping George win championships or even fight for championships and also be a key player in constructors championships, that's a lot to put on a young man of 18 years old. He could be a freak and can handle it, and if he is, fair play to him, but I would never take that risk.
Don't know.
I think
go on, Shez.
I just think if you win F2 as a rookie, which is getting harder and harder to do season on season, that tells me that you've probably got the mentality to go into a top team and not be completely overawed as per Oscar Piastri this season. Like, I'm not saying he's going to go in and win a title, but I also don't think that somebody like that, if again this is a massive if he wins that title, you'd bank on him not embarrassing himself in that seat.
Fair. You know who in this very techie conversation around Lewis and Scuderia Ferrari 2025, a name that we haven't mentioned yet, chaps, which I think is absolutely egregious. Carlos Sainz Jr., chaps.
He's an option to go to Mercedes as well.
Unbelievable. Especially after seeing his performance in Singapore and the 200 level race IQ that he showed in leveraging that DRS with Lando. I think it's outrageous. Absolutely the biggest loser in this situation. And I feel like we've done him a bit of a disservice and not even cited him as a potential for the Mercedes. In fact, you could argue if you wanted somebody per your parameters, Baxty, you wanted somebody who was ready to go straight away, right away, then who better than Carlos Sainz Jr.?
I'd happily have Carlos in there. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a great driver. I think Ferrari have done him a bit dirty as well because they've not announced that he's going. He had to do that. He's released a statement whilst we've been recording. Just a very simple, I've got one more year. We're going to work together, do my best, and I'll announce my future plans in due course. It's either going to be Mercedes or Stake that then become Audi, realistically. I think probably Audi. I'd love to have him at Mercedes, but I think he's always had that one eye on what's going on with Audi. it's harsh on him for sure, because he was very good for a lot of last season, but we know what it's like with Scuderia Ferrari. They are ruthless. They are ruthless, and they had a chance to get Lewis Hamilton. They had to get him, and sorry, Carlos, you're out the door.
Oh, we're being very harsh. Shez, it sounded like you wanted to expound some. You wanted to go off on a Carlos Sainz diatribe for a second there, bro.
No, I like Carlos. I think he's a great driver.
He's good.
Yeah,
He's everything that Charles Leclerc doesn't have as far as assertiveness and smarts and race IQ and strategic thinking. I'm not even. I'm not even. I mean that sincere.
Okay. Sure. I mean, but he's not as quick though, is he? And I think, but I think him and George at Mercedes would be a fun little mix. But they're both going to try and assert themselves on the team and try and be top dog there. Like Carlos is not going to want to sit back and let George be the guy that's calling all the shots. And if Mercedes are still operationally on the back foot as they have been for the last couple of seasons, maybe longer than that actually, I'd have my money on Carlos making better decisions than George. I think George
100%, bro.
Yeah, I think my problem with George is that he makes decisions often on the back of I want to do better than Lewis rather than I want to do what's actually going to maximize my race result, and that's to his detriment. I think Carlos doesn't do that so much. He's much more out for he's much more big picture. But I think the Mercedes move for Carlos would be a better one because they are an established entity and they have got a proven track record. The attraction of Audi is that they're a team that will have massive backing and will be up and coming, and they also have his old mucker Andreas Seidel already there. Andreas, we know, rates Carlos highly, so having him at Audi would be a big boon. So he'd be going back to a sort of family kind of feel for him. And I say family very pointedly, given the Audi links with his dad. But I don't think in terms of if Carlos is looking for career progression, like proper career progression and winning races, winning championships. I think in the short to medium term, Mercedes is a place to do that.
I don't disagree with that, Shez. Let me, as we round third base, I want to before I ask you the final question, just imagine for a second. There's so many different permutations here. Imagine if Mercedes start to come on leaps and bounds. We see the mean reversion and they start to develop a car, but we see glimpses this year. And only in 2025 do they have themselves a championship winning car, and Ferrari don't make any progress. That's bonkers. That's my biggest worry as a Lewis Hamilton fan, that Mercedes and Ferrari pass each other in the wind as far as their rate of progress. But that's the risk that you run, right?
That would be for 1 year though, because everything's changing again in 2026 with the new engine regulations.
But go on then, Baxty.
What have Ferrari shown Lewis about 2026? Because this is not a 1 year deal, this is multi-year. And we saw that Lewis did it when he moved to Mercedes. He moved a year before the new regulations in 2014. So maybe Ferrari have given some, well, not assurances, but they've sold Lewis on the vision of 2026 and said we can have you in a championship battle by 2026.
But in a new rule and reg environment between Ferrari and Mercedes, which
and its engines as well, yes,
but
split turbos and all that other stuff in the hybrid era, like.
But they don't have Andy Cowell anymore. Andy Cowell is the guy that built up that high performance powertrain business, right? That was him, and they're still using the same architecture now. So I'm not sure that's the main reason to go. I think the article that you shared, the Racing News 365 one, was the key here. Like that's my argument for saying that this is a performance move rather than a romantic move, right? Because there's loads of romance attached to this. This is Senna's move, the one that he wanted to make. This is I finished my career at Ferrari. This is I win a title at Ferrari, usurping Michael Schumacher's record in a red car. I mean, the storyline that builds, unbelievable. But it has to be based on performance. And what is coming out from that article is that the people that were at Mercedes that were backing Lewis and saying the direction you're taking with the 13 and 14 is incorrect, and now at Ferrari and will have finished their gardening leave by 2025. That's enticing. That's like having that's a Schumacher to Ferrari move. That's where this makes sense for me.
Bro, because don't big it too much. That's high praise.
No, listen, I agree, but I need this hyping up for me, because at the moment I'm still anxious about it. I'm still super anxious about it. But if that's
about, bro.
But if that's where this move is going, because he's got a core of engineers that he knows, trusts, listen to him, and will build a car around him, then I think the Ferrari moves on. And I think it could be not in 25. I think Red Bull have got it licked in 25, but in 26, I think as long as Ferrari don't implode and have a massive management change again between 25 and 26, I think then we're in business. Then we've got something to talk about.
Go on then, lads. Final one, because I know, Shez, you've got to run and do some clinicianing. One word answers only. Has Lewis made the right decision to find himself at Scuderia Ferrari in 2020? In 2025? Shez, I'll come to you first, bro. One word answer, if you could, please.
Tentatively, yes.
Oof. Baxty, to that you say what, sir?
I think based on what we know, yes.
Oh my gosh, this is chaos, chaps. I thought I was going to be the rogue dissenter in saying yes.
Pains me to say it.
Yeah, me too. Because this is a massive U-turn for me, even in the course of 24 hours.
Chaos, chaps. That the consensus, 3 out of 3, we're all saying it's the right decision to move to Ferrari from Mercedes. 8-time Constructors' Championship. Toto Wolff, James Allison back at the helm. Split turbos, hybrid era dominance.
See, when you put it like that, it now seems like it's not the right decision.
But why are we all saying yes then?
Because
current direction of travel.
It's that last point. It's the last point that sold it for me. It's the last point that sold it for me.
All the serious bods have moved across the Scuderia.
Yeah, because Fred Vasseur, already known entity to Lewis Hamilton, they've worked together in the past, still on good terms, has brought a breath of fresh air, I think, to Ferrari this season, which I didn't think he would. So that's on me. And we've now got a bunch of engineers that are behind Lewis. That's what changed it for me over the course of today, was hearing that there's some technical staff that will follow him along. How
the mighty Mercedes have fallen. This is bonkers. I can't believe we're ending this podcast on that bombshell. 3 yeses across the board that Lewis Hamilton has made the right. That is bonkers, isn't it? Shares proper open mouth time. But I digress. That has been another Shakedown podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching and listening as much as I. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, por favor. If you are listening on a podcasting platform, be sure to leave a 5-star review. Baxty BF1 for the hottest content, F1 content on YouTube. Shez for a sick podcast, the Tired Pod, that you can catch on the YouTubes and on all podcasting platforms. We'll be back same time, same place next week. From co-host Baxty, for co-host Shez, I've been Cameron. Between now and next time, remember as always to look but never stare.